my trusty 30-minute hourglass. We're going to flip this, and in 30 minutes or less, I'm going to walk you through how I plan my day using Cal Newport's Time Block Planner, second edition. 40 bucks or whatever it is if you get it on sale. Seems like a lot, but divide that by the number of days and the amount of productivity I get out of it. I think it's a fair trade. You could go with a cheaper or a knockoff, but this is perfect. The design, or good enough, whatever. It's great. So I think it's worth the money. Today's date is December 22nd. So that's step one here on the time block planning page. I'll walk you through this as we go. The most important thing, it's really simple. So I see how it can seem like a ripoff, but like it works. So I'm paying for the productivity, not necessarily the amount of ink on the page or whatever. So you go to the weekday. Today's Monday, so it's day one. Really basic. It's daily metrics, shutdown complete, which maybe we'll talk about, tasks, which I pull from Asana. Ideas is basically like a notepad that I can use along the way over the course of the day to jot things down. Everything stays here. It comes out of my brain, but I'm not opening a phone. I'm not opening a tab. I'm not opening devices that essentially pull me into their digital space. So just brain dump, vomit it out into this ideas page. Everything stays in like physical space, and I'm entering digital space for productivity. So daily metrics. It's December 22nd, so I'm not going on vacation these holidays, but I'm going into what I call, but I got it from someone else. It's called maintenance mode. It's something athletes do where during downtimes you don't want to do nothing because you won't advance your goals, but also you'll lose your muscle memory. So maintenance mode is like, in my case, I've kind of shut down my company. But I continue to work on my artistic craft. So my daily metrics today are, I have to get back. So I'm just going to write it down as website, in parentheses, Dean. What that means is I actually owe my web designer, developer, Dean, a bunch of deliverables that he needs to redo my website that we've been working on for a few months, and I'm behind on that. So that's an example of a task that during these 2 weeks of maintenance mode is really valuable to catch up on before it gets turned into a side of desk task in 2026 again. So that's something I want to do over these holidays. Website, I have to get back to Chris for entrepreneurship entrepreneurship videos. I owe him mainly a thumbnail because we're redoing our thumbnail templates, and I want to take the lead on designing that in Canva. So I got to get back to him on that. And the other big thing is I got to get some Canada Council for the Arts grants in before the end of the year. I'm working with a grant writer named Yotam. So I've got to the big thing is I got to figure out which feature films I'm applying for funding for, and whether I apply for research or development. We'll get into that in a different video about grant writing. But those are my three main daily metrics. These are actually quite broad. So that's why these are more projects than they are specific daily measurable tasks. But to some extent they are, and I guess I can break those down to the tasks, but I already kind of know what they are. So for the website, I've got to respond to Dean. He sent me an email with all the deliverables I owe him. So while the broader task is work on the website, I know that Dean means I have to go to that email. I mean, I'll write it for you guys where it's like email with deliverables. And we're going to turn that into time chunks to get that done. For Chris, entrepreneurship, thumbnails, and titles. So the task would be, for Chris, I'm just going to put Asana tasks because I know that they're there in Asana. And then the third metric, which is lower priority because the reality is with the Canada Council grants, Yotam is less dependent on me. So I'm not bottlenecking him taking the baton back and getting on with his work. So that's my third, but this is kind of chronological in terms of priority. So the CCA grants is lowest priority. So now we turn that into actionable day. Again, because it's the holidays right now, I don't have any meetings. Like today, Monday morning, it's 10 o'clock now. Usually I actually would have had to take my MMM, Monday morning meeting for the company, Intel Sectionnel Films, at 9:15 every Monday morning. We aren't doing that for these 2 weeks. But I'm gonna kind of do this two ways to show you the value. First, I'll show you what I'm actually gonna do today, but then I'll also show you how I would have done this if it was a typical Monday where, let's say I had that Monday morning meeting and I'm going to throw in like another meeting around noon. Let's say it was a thing for organization I'm on the board for, or maybe with a funding body or something. So I'll throw another fixed block into the V2 of the schedule just to show you what that looks like and how valuable this process is. So usually I get in, like I said, today's Monday, so it might be, I'd get in around 9 a.m. if I had that Monday morning meeting. Today I got in at 10. So already you can see that this is really valuable because it's flexible. It seems more rigid, but actually it's more flexible. And then here again in the time section, you can put in whatever your time is. Like if you work nights, you just fill it in. So in my case, what I start with is 7, and then I'll put this all in and I'll explain why. 13, 14, 15. This is the French way of doing time, which I think is actually, it makes more sense that it's like 1 to 24. Anyway. So you see, I start at 7 a.m. and I end at 18, but actually it's winter. So you'll see that there are some other things in here that adjust. Mainly, I actually leave my office between 4 and 5 because the sun goes down and I'm susceptible to seasonal depression. So I actually kind of give myself some grace during the winter and start my like more producery, like manager productivity tasks later, and I end earlier. So today, for example, 7 a.m., I went to the gym for a steam. Normally, I would actually start with writing, but again, because it's winter, I found that I have to prioritize my physical and mental health. That's the hardest thing to do during these months. So I always try to do the hardest thing in my life in the morning. So now I start with going to the gym at 7. Once I develop my 28-day habit, I'll probably turn that into working out. But now I start with the gym steam, then I do writing. So this is where a trusty ruler comes in. I got this in Vancouver, actually. It's super cute and I love it. It takes up like no space, and it's been super helpful. So basically pen and ruler, key. I have a couple rulers, one in a pencil case, one in my backpack, so I can do this wherever I go. And so right off the bat, basically the gym and steam, which also includes the shower, so that is efficient, takes up my 7 to 8 a.m. block. I'm not including commuting because everything is kind of within a couple blocks of me. So that's basically time block planning in a nutshell. From 7 a.m., I go to the gym, I steam. Next, I do half an hour of writing using my trusty hourglass, which is it's actually really hard to find a 30-minute hourglass. I guess because it is called an hourglass. And so it's a glass for an hour, which seems obvious until you actually try to find a 30-minute hourglass on Amazon. And suddenly it's incredibly challenging. The reason I like the 30 minutes, an hour is too much. I end up spending the last 15 minutes feeling guilty, shameful, confused that I'm not being more productive. 30 minutes, usually I have a sense from over the course of the earlier day, thinking about what I want to change in the script, what I want to write, how I want to move things around. So 30 minutes, I'm actually super productive. I get the job done. Time runs out. I leave. Maybe I even know what I'm going to start working on tomorrow. So 30 minutes is sufficient, but I'm going to put it into a 1-hour block because I have to walk from the gym to home and drop off my gym bag, leave my stuff out to dry. grab my backpack with my laptop and go to a cafe, which is another 5-minute walk. Then I write for 15 minutes. Usually my girlfriend joins me. We hang out for a little bit, and then I come into the office. So that's why it's an hour-long block. Since I've already developed this habit, I'm not going to break it down into 15-minute chunks, though sometimes that is valuable, especially when on the go. But in this case, I'm going to write sunny side up because that's the name of the project. And there it goes. That's 1 hour. Now this is retroactive because I've already developed the habit. Now we're going to get into actually planning the day. So I started this at 10 a.m. This is normal, even though I'm recording this, is slowing me down a little bit. Essentially, when I come in, the first thing I do is not check emails. Usually by this point, maybe I've checked emails after the writing session, but I really try to avoid checking emails because then I start thinking about trying to like do random tasks random people have assigned me, and it gets me in a wrong state of mind instead of like doing what I need to do to have the life I want to live, I guess. Okay, so I get in, and the first thing I do is this. Essentially, it's always 30 minutes of planning. That's where I do what we're doing now. And another great example of why this is super helpful. I often talk fast when I'm doing videos, but I'm usually like not like it's usually actually a pretty slower pace in terms of my rhythm. And the other thing is what you'll see here. This is a good example of time block planning. I'm doing planning now. Where did this hour go? In this case, actually, it was a pretty chill morning. I went home with Claudia after the writing session, and we had breakfast. So I made another coffee. We warmed up some Spanish tortilla that I made yesterday. She had gotten some baguette on her walk home. So I'm just going to fill that in retroactively as breakfast and commute. In this case, my commute's only a few minutes to my co-working space. And there you go. So retroactively, breakfast and commute gets plugged in. So now, on a day like today, I now have, basically 6 hours to do work and have lunch in there. So I'm going to be out of here by 4, if not sooner. And this is a big part of time block planning, is scheduling your projected shutdown time. So for me, I'm going to put a block in for shutdown at 4:30, 4 to 4:30. So that means during that period, I want to literally be closing tasks, packing up, putting on my coat, and by 4:30, I'm expecting to be out the door. The reason this game of like putting tasks in and projecting and planning relative to like blocks that are already in, that's the game of time block planning, is like you figure out the Tetris first so that then you can actually see how much time you have, because otherwise you're just like getting filled with tasks and you're going minute by minute, hour by hour, and you end up feeling overwhelmed. When you can actually see how much time you have in a day, it becomes much easier, in my opinion, to negotiate. So example, in this case, I'm going to, especially because it's 10:30, that's great, I'm going to give myself a lunch block from 12 to 1. And that's an example of, let's say you had a Monday morning meeting, let's say you had a webinar, let's say you had a meeting with your boss. That's an example of a fixed event that you would put in here. That could be in your calendar, and then you would put it in here. And generally, if I'm here and today is like Monday, if someone sends me a meeting request, it would have to be a very powerful person with lots of money for me to actually take that today and shift my day completely. Now, if I bump into someone interesting on the street and they invite me for a coffee, I might take that. But yeah, I have very little patience for people who, like, phone calls are another great example. Just because it's convenient for you to make a phone call in that moment doesn't mean it's fair to expect me to drop everything, have my phone ringer on. Those aren't the type of people I want to work with. I want to work with people with emotional intelligence who, give people 24, 48 hours, 72 hours to complete tasks and respond. So as an example, let's say my lunch was a fixed event. I put that in 12 to 1, and now you can already see how much easier it is to actually say, all right, I have an hour and a half between now. I'm going to wrap this live up in no longer than 7 minutes. So I got to decide, well, what's my top priority? The most important thing is the website, getting those materials to Dean. He's also in South Africa, so he is, I think, ahead of me. So I want to get those to him so that he can wake up in what I think is 3 a.m. my time. He used to be in, where was he, Switzerland or Sweden or something? So anyway, my point being, I want to get that to him ASAP so that he doesn't lose a day of productivity, and I can make good on already being behind on that. So that's really going to move the needle. So I'm going to block that into my first block of the morning, and then I will put Chris in the afternoon. I am going to be ambitious and put some time aside to noodle on the Canada Council grant, at least maybe think about which projects I want to prioritize applying for. I think it's going to be this like home invasion Quebecois English French thing I'm working on. That's like a Quebecois get out. I think that's the one I'm super pumped about writing next after Sunny Side Up. So that's probably going to be the priority. So I am going to pencil in over this next hour and a half, I'm going to work on website. There you go. And then that gives me in the afternoon 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. So let's assume that I'm a little lethargic after lunch. I'll give myself 30 minutes to make a mate or a tea or something, not coffee, because that'll disrupt my sleep. So let's say I'm going to call that flex. Flex is what I use when I want to give myself a bit of like buffer. So I may have flex at lunch. It's okay. One of the reasons there's all this empty space is because the reality is this will likely change. This is just a first draft. And then as things change, you cross out your first plan and then you do the same thing. Oh, where is it? This is reverse. Oh, geez, this is really tough to do. Okay. There we go. Okay, so in the next column, you kind of redo your planning. And so I'm going to give myself an hour after the flex for, what was it? To support Chris with YouTube stuff. And then I'll give myself half-hour flex and then an hour to noodle on the Canada Council, though it's not enough to really dig in. So maybe it'll be noodling on it and then maybe going through because Canada Council released a new portal, so maybe I'll explore that a little bit. So flex and CCA. All right, so there we go. 10:26, 4 minutes to spare. So I started with the gym, went for a steam. Then I went to the cafe, worked on Sunny Side Up, went home, had breakfast, came into the office with you. We just did the planning. Now I'm going to spend the next hour and a half delivering website deliverables to Dean, go for lunch, flex, time, support Chris, flex, noodle on Canada Council, then shut down for the day. And it's always important when you shut down to actually say shut down complete and then check off the box. And then that's helpful because later in the day, when I might get a pull to hop into emails or do something that I shouldn't do because it'll get the cogs turning, but I won't be able to complete the task, then you remind yourself. I think there's actually a mantra that's written in here. I just remind myself that's like shut down complete. I already shut down, but shut down ritual. So there's some instructions on how to use this. And if you're watching this, you probably already have a sense of Cal Newport's work. Okay, I wouldn't have checked the shutdown complete box if I hadn't completed the shutdown ritual that convinced me I'm fine to avoid work until tomorrow. Yeah, I might practice trying to get this motto back in my head, but at least I just feel the pull to check my emails, I say, I've already shut down for the day. This can wait till tomorrow. And then I do my best to fight that urge. So hope that's helpful. If you are an artist thinking about getting the Cal Newport Time Block Planner, I found it super, super helpful.